My daughter-in-law gave me tea, but the day before, I found out she took a huge life insurance in my name. She smiled while pouring it too. Said it was chamomile, that it would help me sleep better. I watched her hand tremble just a little as she handed me the cup. That was the only moment she seemed human. The rest of the time she was polished and cold, like she'd been trained to care, but didn't have it in her. Her name is Angie, and from the moment my son married her, she made it clear. I was not part of the future they were building. Hold on a moment before we move forward. Let us know where in the world you're watching from. And if you're loving these stories, don't forget to hit subscribe. Tomorrow's episode is going to be absolutely mind-blowing. The day before, a man from the insurance company called the house. He was looking to verify information about a new policy taken out in my name. I told him there must be a mistake. I hadn't signed anything. He asked if I was aware that the primary beneficiary was Angela Wallace. I asked him to repeat the name, and he did. Angela Wallace, my daughter-in-law. He also mentioned a $750,000 payout upon death. My name, her cash. I thanked him calmly, wrote everything down on a notepad, and hung up. Then I sat in my kitchen for what must have been an hour, staring at the wall, gripping the edge of the counter so hard my fingers ached. I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just breathed and waited for her to come by like she usually did, smiling, with that perfect lipstick and those hollow eyes. She arrived the next day at 4:30 p.m., just like always. My son Michael was working late. He's a financial analyst, never home before 7, sometimes later. She always came first to check on me and see if I needed help with anything. I used to believe that lie. Used to think maybe she cared a little, even if it was forced. But after that phone call, everything about her felt like a script. She walked in with a grocery bag, milk, eggs, a new box of chamomile tea. Said she was trying a new organic brand. Said it would calm my nerves. I watched her boil the water, watched her eyes flick down to her phone as she texted someone. Probably Michael. She dropped the tea bag into the mug, turned and smiled at me. "Here you go, Miss Louise," she said. "Nice and warm." She never called me Mom, not even once. I took the cup with both hands, thanked her, and nodded. Then I set it down slowly. I told her I needed to use the restroom before it got cold. She smiled again, too wide, and said she'd tidy up the groceries. I didn't go to the bathroom. I went straight to the guest room, pulled out the drawer in the nightstand, and placed the cup on a small glass plate I kept for pills. I wasn't going to drink it. I wasn't going to pour it out either. I was going to have it tested. There's a retired nurse 2 houses down from me, Mrs. Powell. We walk together sometimes in the mornings when it's not too cold. She told me once she still had access to testing kits from her days in the hospital. I figured if anything looked off, I'd bring it to her. I walked back out and smiled, told Angie the tea tasted good, told her I felt tired and might lie down early. She looked satisfied, said she'd let herself out, gave me a soft pat on the shoulder before leaving. I waited by the window until her car pulled out of the driveway. Then I locked every door in the house, pulled the blinds, and placed the mug inside a plastic bag. My hands were steady. My breath wasn't. I didn't call Michael. I didn't even think about it. He wouldn't believe me. He's the type to defend Angie even when she's wrong. "She's just direct, Ma." "You misread her tone, Ma." "She means well, Ma." Always Ma, but never listening, never watching how she treated me when he wasn't around. The next morning, I took the mug to Mrs. Powell in a brown paper bag. I told her I was doing an experiment for a friend who worked in a nursing home. She didn't ask questions, just said she'd take a look and let me know by tomorrow. I walked home slow, the wind biting at my coat sleeves, thinking about the conversation I overheard a few weeks back. Angie talking on the phone in the hallway while I pretended to sleep in the living room. She's been slowing down a lot lately. Michael's worried. I told him I'd start checking in more. Make sure we're all prepared. Prepared for what? Now it made sense. That night, I cooked myself dinner like usual. Sat at the table with my notebook and went over my monthly expenses. I didn't eat much. My stomach was too tight. At exactly 9 a.m. the next day, Mrs. Powell knocked at my door. She didn't smile. She just handed me a small plastic bag with a paper inside. "If I were you," she said, "I'd stop drinking anything that woman brings in this house." Then she turned and walked away. I sat on the couch and read the paper. Twice. There were traces of diphenhydramine and something else she couldn't identify. Possibly a compounded sedative. Not enough to knock me out. Not enough to kill me. But enough to encourage drowsiness and confusion in someone elderly. She was testing the dose. That's what hit me hardest. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a misunderstanding. She was experimenting, seeing what she could get away with, how much she could give me without raising suspicion, how much longer I'd go on trusting her. The idea that she was waiting for me to just fade quietly made me shake in a way I hadn't in years. Not from fear, from rage, quiet rage, cold, focused, familiar. I grabbed my lawyer's card from my dresser drawer. Monica Reeves. I hadn't spoken to her in almost 2 years, but she'd been my legal advisor since Michael's father passed away. I called her office. The assistant answered. I asked for a private consultation. She told me Monica had a slot that Friday. I said I'd be there. No further details. That same afternoon, Angie showed up again with more groceries, more tea. She didn't know I'd already emptied the bank accounts she thought she could touch. She didn't know I'd already started reviewing the deed to the house. She didn't know that inside my notebook, next to my budget, I was writing names, dates, times, and everything she'd ever said in this house while pretending to help. She smiled as she handed me another cup. I smiled back, but this time my hands didn't tremble, and I didn't plan to go quietly. By the end of that week, the cups of tea kept coming. Every visit, Angie would arrive with the same bright smile and the same green grocery tote. Tea, fresh fruit, low-sodium soup, and always something special for me to relax with. She started calling it our tea time. Said she liked the ritual. Said it made her feel closer to me. Every word out of her mouth was polished like it came from a brochure about caregiving. But I wasn't sipping anything. After the first test result, I made a point of swapping the mugs. She'd go into the kitchen, boil the water, and leave the tea bags in the cup. I'd wait until she wasn't looking, then pour the tea into a thermos I kept hidden behind the bread box. I'd refill the mug with plain hot water from the kettle. She never noticed. On Friday, I went to meet Monica. I wore my good coat, the one Michael always said made me look professional. It was buttoned tight. I took a cab and told the driver I was meeting my attorney to review estate documents. That wasn't a lie. Monica greeted me with a firm handshake and a look of concern. We hadn't seen each other in person in over a year, but I trusted her. She didn't waste time with small talk. Once the door closed behind us, I handed her the test results from Mrs. Powell and the scribbled notes I'd been keeping. Every date Angie brought tea. Everything she said. Every odd moment I could remember. Monica read in silence, then looked up. "Do you want to go to the police?" "No," I said. "Not yet. If I push too fast, They'll get cautious. They'll change strategy. They? Yes. Angie might be the one pouring it, but I don't believe for a second Michael doesn't know what she's doing. Monica folded her hands over the papers. What do you want, Louise? I took a deep breath. I want to cut them out, but quietly. I want to make sure they don't see it coming. I want to give them enough rope to hang themselves with, and when they think they've won, I want it all taken back in a single morning. Monica nodded slowly. Okay, then we need to start by changing your power of attorney and the will. Do they know you have money? Some of it, yes, I said, but not all. Then let's keep it that way. We went over every document. Monica updated the will, removing Michael entirely. Everything was to go into a living trust, controlled by a third party until my death, with 80% of the assets redirected to community outreach for elder women. The other 20% set aside for my grandson, Jeremiah, Angie's stepson. He had always been kind to me, and lately I could tell something in him had changed. He wasn't comfortable in that house. Monica asked for copies of my ID, social, and bank statements. She told me she'd notarize everything by the following Tuesday. I left her office more grounded than I'd felt in months. Back at home, I kept things normal. Or as normal as Angie expected them to be. That meant tea, small talk, and letting her believe I was still clueless. I even complimented the new blend she brought from a boutique shop in town. Oh, you really taste the lavender notes? She asked. I do, I lied. Very calming. She smiled, smug. Then she sat across from me and asked how I'd been sleeping. I told her the nights were getting long, but I was managing. She offered to get me something stronger, said Michael could call the doctor. I told her I preferred natural remedies. Then she leaned in just a little and said, You know, Miss Louise, I've been thinking, if anything ever happens to you, I hope you know we'll take good care of everything. Everything. The house, your things. We'd treat them with respect. I tilted my head. That's kind of you. She leaned back, satisfied. The following morning, I received a manila envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a copy of the life insurance policy the agent had referred to on the phone. The one taken out in my name. My signature was there, slanted and shaky, but not mine. It had been traced poorly. I placed the envelope inside my filing cabinet under protective documents and made a note to give it to Monica later. That Sunday, Michael came by. He sat beside Angie like always, his arm draped over her shoulder, his words measured, patient, tired. Ma, he said, Angie's been telling me you've been having trouble sleeping. We're a little concerned. I'm fine, I said. She said you've been disoriented, repeating things, forgetting names. I haven't forgotten a single name in this family, I said plainly. And I'm not confused. I'm old. There's a difference. Angie looked down at her lap. Michael shifted. Well, I think it might be time to talk about planning ahead, just in case something happens suddenly. I looked him in the eye. What kind of sudden are you imagining? He didn't answer. I pushed my chair back. I've already met with Monica. Everything's in order. His expression changed slightly. You've been to the lawyer? Yes. Just a routine update. Michael stood, stretched his arms like he was shaking off discomfort. That's good, he said. Better to have things in place. Angie was quiet for the rest of the visit. After they left, I opened my notebook again, added the date, wrote, Michael pushing long-term plan. Showed signs of nervousness when I mentioned Monica. Angie didn't speak for last 20 minutes. Over the next few days, the visits slowed down. Angie skipped Wednesday, said she had an appointment. Michael called instead, asked if I needed anything. I said no. He hesitated before hanging up. That Friday, they both came again, tea in hand. But this time, I didn't even pretend to drink it. I left it sitting on the counter and said I wasn't thirsty. Angie asked if I was feeling okay. Better than I've felt in a long time, I said. Michael tried to steer the conversation back toward estate planning, said he was thinking of updating his own life insurance for the baby's future. He mentioned that Angie had started handling more of the bills at home, asked if I ever felt overwhelmed managing things by myself. I told him I've been paying bills since before he was born, and I'd still be paying them after he was gone. That ended the conversation. After they left, I poured the untouched tea into the thermos and dropped it off at Mrs. Powell's porch. Left a note with it. Another sample, same source. Please run if possible. The next morning she called. Whatever she's putting in it, she said, she's increasing the dose. That was the moment I knew. She wasn't just trying to make me tired anymore. She was hoping I'd fall and not get up, or worse, go to sleep and not wake up. I called Monica that afternoon. I want to accelerate the changes, I told her. Already, ahead of you, she said. I looked around my house, the one they were planning to inherit, the one they were trying to empty before I was even in the ground. My photos were still on the mantel, my name still on every bill, my breath still in every room. I wasn't going anywhere, but soon they would be. The following week, I stopped answering the phone when Angie called. She tried twice on Monday, once in the morning, again in the early evening. I didn't pick up either time. That was new for her. Normally she waited until midweek. Normally she didn't seem eager. But that week, something had shifted. I had made my move, and they didn't know it yet. On Tuesday morning, Monica called. She had everything finalized. The revised will, the revocation of the forged power of attorney, the trust papers, and the affidavit of capacity signed by a physician who had examined me the previous Thursday. A discreet visit, no record shared, with my primary provider just a trusted professional Monica worked with for elder fraud cases. He ran all the standard assessments and cleared me without hesitation. "You're sharp as a tack, Louise," he'd said. "More than I can say for most people walking around with clipboards and titles." That paper mattered. It proved I was of sound mind when the changes were made. Legally speaking, it meant if Angie or Michael tried to contest anything later, they'd have to explain why a woman considered fully competent would sign away her assets to everyone but them. I told Monica I wanted copies of everything. She said she'd drop them off in person. Thursday morning, she showed up at my front, dar at 9:15 a.m. sharp, with a folder thick with documents, and a look on her face like we were just getting started. Monica never smiled too wide. She was a woman who believed action carried more weight than expression. "It's all here," she said, setting the folder on my dining room table. "They can't touch a cent." "Good," I replied. "You want to take it further?" I nodded. We opened the folder and went page by page. The trust named a small nonprofit in Atlanta as the main beneficiary, Women First Foundation. They ran housing and legal support for senior women displaced by their families. I had heard of them from a woman in my church who said they helped her cousin after her daughter tried to force her into a facility and sell her home. I remembered the name. I called the number. 2 days later, I had spoken with the director and made the decision. Everything would go to them, except for Jeremiah. My grandson had come by unannounced the previous Saturday. He knocked once, then twice. I almost didn't open the door. But something in me told me to. When I did, he was standing there with his backpack slung over one shoulder, eyes tired. "Can I come in for a minute?" he asked. I stepped aside. We sat in silence in the living room, both of us unsure what the other knew. "I saw the tea," he said finally. "In the trash, the thermos. I know you're not drinking it." I didn't move. He looked down. "I heard her talking to Dad. She said it was time to start making arrangements." I stayed quiet. "She said you weren't getting better. Said, maybe you were starting to slip." He looked up. "You don't seem like you're slipping." "I'm not. I didn't know what to do. I don't know how to stop them." I studied his face. He was just a boy, barely 18, but there was guilt in his voice that didn't belong to a child. He wasn't trying to fix anything. He was trying not to drown in it. "You're not responsible for their choices," I said, "but you get to choose your own." He nodded. "I want to stay with you, if you'll let me." I didn't answer right then. I just stood and got him a blanket and a set of sheets for the pullout in the den. He's been there ever since. Now Monica looked at me from across the table and said, "What about your son? What happens when he finds out?" I closed the folder. "He'll find out soon enough, but I want it to be at the right moment." She waited. "I want him to learn the truth when he's already comfortable. When they think they're safe, when they think it's over, that's when we show them." "You want me to hold back the legal notice?" "Yes, until I say otherwise." She nodded, packed the folder back into her briefcase, and left the house. With her usual brisk walk, I closed the door, locked it behind her, and exhaled. That night, Angie came over again. No warning. Just pulled into the driveway and walked up with her bag of groceries and that same mug. Chamomile with lemon this time. She was wearing a peach-colored sweater and a headband, like she was trying to look soft. "You haven't been answering," she said as she stepped into the kitchen. "We were worried." "I've been resting more. Michael thought you might be confused." "No confusion," I said, "just quiet." She looked around the kitchen like she was checking for changes. Her eyes lingered on the medicine cabinet, the hallway, the pantry. I caught it. Every glance. She set the tea down in front of me. "Try this one. It's got a hint of valerian root. Very calming." I didn't touch the mug. "I'll have it later," I said. She smiled, fake as always. "So, any plans to update your will? You know, just to be sure everything's clean." It came out too quickly, too rehearsed. "I already did," I said. "That froze her." "Oh?" She tried to recover. "That's great. I mean, good for you. Everything's in writing now. And Michael?" I looked at her. "Everything's in writing." She left not long after that. The next morning, I got a call from Monica. She had received an email from someone using Michael's work address, asking to schedule a family consultation about inheritance planning. She forwarded it to me. It was Michael asking if we could all be added to the document soon. Told her to ignore it. The next day, someone tried to access my online bank account. The bank froze it automatically and called me. I thanked them. Called Monica. We filed a fraud report. She said this was the part where we stop giving them rope and start pulling it. "Not yet," I said. "Let them get comfortable." Saturday came. Jeremiah helped me trim the hedges. He asked if I needed anything from the store. I gave him a list. While he was out, Michael showed up. No Angie. Just him. He knocked twice, like always. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. He looked nervous. "Can we talk?" I didn't move. "Talk?" He hesitated. "Look, Ma, there's been some misunderstanding. Angie said you were confused, but I'm not confused. Okay. Then maybe we can just go over the legal stuff together. Make sure we're all on the same page." "I already have legal support," he swallowed. "I just don't want this to get messy." "Messy would be me in the ground, while you two pick out new curtains." He flinched. "Ma, we're just trying to help." "Then leave." He blinked, stunned. "You're serious?" "I am. And you have 30 seconds before I call someone." He didn't argue, just turned around and walked down the steps, slower than he arrived. When Jeremiah came back, I told him what happened. He didn't speak, just nodded and started unpacking the groceries. By Sunday, I had made my decision. It was time to serve them. I told Monica to have the paperwork delivered on a Wednesday morning, midweek, early, before either of them had time to adjust their smiles or rehearse a defense. She didn't ask questions, just confirmed the address and scheduled the process server. Quant 15 a.m., that was the time the man knocked on Michael and Angie's front door with a thick envelope and a neutral expression. According to Monica, he said Michael opened the door still, in his robe, coffee in hand. Angie was behind him, wearing her usual tight smile. She looked confused, then irritated, then panicked as the man handed them the envelope and turned to leave without another word. Inside the envelope were the legal filings: revocation of the fraudulent power of attorney, notice of asset protection, a cease and desist regarding contact or manipulation attempts, and, on top, a full copy of my new will, notarized and stamped, leaving them both with nothing. Jeremiah and I were at home when it happened. He was eating cereal, sitting at the kitchen table. I was sipping my own tea. The real kind. No sedatives, no games. Just regular black tea with a bit of honey. My phone rang at 7:39 a.m. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. Then again. 5 calls in total between 7:30 and 8 a.m. I didn't pick up. Finally, a message came through. From Michael. "Ma, we need to talk. What is this? Are you really serious? Can we please meet? Just you and me." I didn't reply. Instead, I walked to the window and opened the blinds. The sky was gray, not stormy, just dull, like everything was holding its breath. By noon, the email came in, forwarded by Monica. It was Michael again. Longer this time, rambling, confused, angry, then polite, then accusatory. He wanted to know why I was suddenly turning on them. Said I was clearly being influenced by someone. Said Angie had done everything for me. Said they loved me. Said I must have misunderstood something. Monica replied on my behalf with a single sentence. All legal decisions made by Ms. Louise Wallace were informed, voluntary, and medically evaluated for capacity. That was it. At 2:10 p.m., a black SUV pulled into my driveway. Michael stepped out alone. Jeremiah stood up from the couch when he saw him through the window. "You want me to stay?" he asked. "No," I said, "but stay nearby." Michael knocked 3 times, firmer than usual. I opened the door but didn't step aside. He stared at me like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "Why are you doing this?" I didn't answer. "You think Angie poisoned you?" Still nothing. "Because if that's what you believe, we should talk to someone. You're not acting like yourself." I met his eyes. "How would you know what myself looks like? You haven't really looked at me in 2 years." He exhaled. "You're really leaving us with nothing." "No," I said. "I'm leaving you with the truth. And a locked door." He opened, his mouth to respond, then stopped. He looked down at the porch floor, then back at me. I can't fix what I don't understand. You understand perfectly. You just don't like what it means. I closed the door, locked it. The next morning, Angie came, alone. She didn't knock. She just stood on the porch, arms crossed like she expected me to come out. I didn't. I watched her through the side window. She stood there for nearly 5 minutes. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a letter. She slid it under the door. It was a single page. Louise, this has all gone too far. I don't know what stories you've been told, but we love you. We care about you. This situation is heartbreaking. We thought we were building a future together. Please don't shut us out. We deserve to talk about this. I folded the letter in half and dropped it into the shredder. 2 days passed without contact. Then Sunday came. Jeremiah and I were planting tomatoes in the backyard. He asked if we could grow rosemary too. I told him yes. We had space now. At 5:42 p.m., the phone rang again. This time it was Angie. Voicemail. Louise, we know you talked to a lawyer. We know what you think you found. But this doesn't have to be a fight. You're still part of our family. Let's just talk. Please. It was the first time she'd said please. It didn't mean anything. That night, Monica called. Their attorney reached out, she said. They're asking if there's room for negotiation. I almost laughed. They think this is a negotiation? They're hoping it is. It's not. She paused. Do you want me to respond? Yes, I said. Tell them the trust is irrevocable. Tell them I've made my decisions. And tell them to stop calling. Monica handled the rest. By the next day, all calls stopped. The week after, Jeremiah received a message from Michael. We miss you. You don't have to choose sides. She's confused. She needs help. Jeremiah read the message silently, then handed me the phone. I read it once, handed it back. You okay? He asked. I nodded. I am now. And I was. They tried to erase me before I was even gone. Tried to make decisions with my name on the paperwork, my signature on the line, my house in their hands. But I had learned. I had listened. And now, they were the ones on the outside. Everything they thought they controlled was out of reach. Every key they wanted was in my pocket. Every word they faked had been answered with action. No scenes, no yelling, just consequences. 2 weeks passed. No calls, no knocks, no messages. The silence was sharp, but not painful. It felt deliberate, like they were regrouping. Angie was the type to retreat when the spotlight turned on her. Michael had always been more reactive, but even he knew when to play it quiet. Still, I knew better than to trust the silence. People like them don't just walk away, not when they've already tasted what they think is theirs. It was a Tuesday when I got the envelope from the Department of Vital Records. Inside, a request form submitted by someone claiming to be me, requesting a certified copy of my death certificate. Stared at it for almost a full minute, not angry, not afraid, just stunned by how bold they were. The form had my full name, my address, but the signature was sloppy and rushed. I made a copy, wrote the date across the top, and faxed it straight to Monica. Then I called her. I think they're trying to pre-stage my passing, I said. She didn't sound surprised. That qualifies as attempted fraud. You ready to report it? Not yet. Let's hold a little longer. Louise. I need one more piece. The piece came sooner than I expected. Jeremiah had started volunteering at the local community center, 2 afternoons a week. Gave him structure, gave me space. That Friday, he walked through the front door with an envelope in his hand. "This came to the center," he said. "Someone must have thought you were still part of the senior meal program." I took the envelope. It was addressed to me, but the sender was unfamiliar. A small catering company from the next town over. Inside, there was a printed dinner menu, with my name listed as a guest of honor for a private family celebration, booked and prepaid by Michael Wallace. The event was that Sunday. 6 p.m., my birthday. I hadn't spoken to either of them in 3 weeks. I hadn't answered a single call. I hadn't mentioned my birthday to anyone but Jeremiah. And yet, here was a full catered dinner being held in my honor at a private banquet room in a restaurant they never could have afforded without help. I sat down at the table and read it again. They were planning something. "Do I go?" I asked Jeremiah. He looked uneasy. "Not alone." I nodded. "Not alone." Sunday came. I wore a simple navy dress, the same one I wore to my last church fundraiser. Jeremiah put on a collared shirt. We drove across town in silence. When we got to the restaurant, the hostess recognized my name immediately. "Right this way, Miss Wallace," she said. "Your party's already here." We followed her through a hallway and into a private room. Michael stood when he saw me. Angie smiled like nothing had ever happened. "Ma," he said, reaching for a hug. I stepped back. "We'll keep this quick." The table was already set. Expensive wine. Silverware arranged like it was a wedding. "We just wanted to see you," Angie said. "We've missed you." "No," I said. "You wanted to stage something. Possibly even photograph it. Maybe record a little clip. Look at us, celebrating our sweet mother." Michael's jaw tightened. "We thought maybe we could talk," he said. "About what?" He hesitated. "About undoing some things. Angie thinks maybe you were pressured." "By who?" "She said Monica might have convinced you." I sat down. Not to stay, just to steady my hands. Monica works for me, not the other way around, and you know that. Angie poured herself a glass of wine. "We thought maybe this dinner could be a turning point." Turning point? I raised my voice just enough. "After a fake death certificate, after trying to access my accounts, after that tea you kept bringing, Angie?" She froze. Michael looked confused, but not shocked, just caught. I pulled a copy of the insurance form from my purse, the one with Angie's signature on the beneficiary line, and my forged signature underneath. "I know everything." Michael's face drained. "Where did you get that?" "You left it in my trash." "You went through my garbage?" "No, you left it in my home." I turned to Angie. "How many doses were you going to try before you got it right?" She opened her mouth but didn't speak. "You want to talk?" I said. "Then let's talk honestly. You married my son, watched me grow old in the same house, where I raised him, and you thought you could erase me before my body even cooled. You both made plans. You both built castles out of my blood." "Ma," Michael said, "that's not fair." "No," I snapped. "What's not fair is watching your own child stand by while his wife poisons your tea." Jeremiah, who had stayed near the doorway, finally spoke. "I heard them talking about money, about timelines, about the house." Michael turned. "You don't understand. I understand enough," Jeremiah said. I stood, reached into my bag and pulled out a second envelope. I placed it on the table. "What's this?" Michael asked. "A restraining order. Filed this morning. You and Angie are not to contact me again, in person, by phone, or through any third party. Violate that and we go to court." "You can't do this." "I already have." I turned and walked toward the door. Jeremiah followed, Michael called after me. "This is how you treat your son?" "No," I said without turning back. "This is how I treat people who try to kill me quietly." I didn't look over my shoulder. Didn't wait to hear what they said next. I walked out with my head steady and my heart calm. In the car, Jeremiah didn't speak. He didn't have to. Everything had been said, everything that mattered. After that night, everything went quiet again. But this time, it was different. No more phone calls. No more guilt-filled letters. No more last-minute drop-ins from Angie with bags of groceries I never asked for. They stopped pretending. And for once, that was something I could appreciate. I started sleeping better. For the first time in months, I could walk through my house without watching over my shoulder or checking my tea. I took the extra mugs out of the cupboard and boxed them up for donation. I scrubbed every corner of my kitchen. I removed every trace of them, not because I needed to forget what they'd done, but because I refused to let their shadow linger in the place I had built with my own 2 hands. Jeremiah stayed with me, even after I told him he was free to leave if he wanted. He helped around the house, went to his volunteering shifts, and studied at night. I started teaching him how to handle bills, how to read legal documents, and how to recognize the signs of manipulation. Lessons I wish someone had taught me sooner. He never complained, never asked for anything, just listened. One evening, I sat him down at the kitchen table and handed him an envelope. "What's this?" he asked. "It's your future," I said. He opened it and found the amended documents Monica had drawn up, a clause added to the trust. Upon my passing, a portion of the assets would be released early, to him in full, with no restrictions, a chance to build something on his own. "You don't have to do this," he said, eyes low. "I know I don't. That's why it means something." We sat there for a while without speaking. Then he nodded and folded the papers carefully, like they were more than just ink on paper. A week later, Monica came by. We had coffee at the dining table, and she handed me a folder. "This is it," she said. "Everything's finalized. The fraud report was accepted. The insurance company is reopening the policy for review. And the restraining order has been filed with the sheriff's department. You're covered." I nodded, flipping through the papers. It felt like closing a book I never wanted to read again. "They may still try to challenge the will," Monica warned. "They can try," I said, "but they won't get far." We both knew that. Every decision I made was backed by evidence, signed while I was fully alert, and protected by people who cared more about justice than appearances. As for Michael and Angie, I didn't hear from them again. Not directly, at least. Jeremiah told me once that he'd seen them at the grocery store. Angie looked away the moment she saw him. Michael nodded but didn't say a word. They moved out of their fancy rental 2 towns over, sold their SUV. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Michael had left his job. Something about an internal audit that uncovered discrepancies. Maybe karma had its own timeline. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need them. I was free. Truly free. Not just from their hands, but from their expectations. From the years of quiet control they thought they had over me. Free from biting my tongue at every holiday. Free from the weight of trying to be pleasant, while watching myself be erased from my own family. I went back to church. I joined a local group for senior women dealing with financial abuse. We met every other Friday. Most of them were like me, women who had built everything and then been told to disappear. I didn't tell them every detail, just enough for them to understand that it was okay to take back control. Monica helped me set up a small foundation, the Wallace Initiative, named not for my son, but for myself, for who I had been before I was Michael's mother, or Angie's burden. It offered legal guidance and emergency support for senior women being financially exploited by their families. I paid for the first 3 years myself. Every penny felt like justice. On my next birthday, Jeremiah brought me a chocolate, cake, and a small bouquet of sunflowers. He didn't say much. He just lit the candle, sat across from me, and waited. "You want to make a wish?" he asked. "No," I said. "I already got it." He smiled. Later that night, I found a small note folded on my pillow. It read, "Thank you for not letting them break you. Thank you for showing me what strength really looks like. Jeremiah." I tucked it into my dresser drawer. Didn't need to frame it. Didn't need to tell anyone about it. Some victories don't need to be shouted. Some justice doesn't need a courtroom. And some people never see it coming until it's far too late.